Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for March 15, 2022. Yes, the Ides of March. The Compliance is Complicated edition. We begin with that story from the Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal, Richard Vandefort, reporting that the Russia invasion of Ukraine and attendant sanctions have led to hard work for many risk officers, particularly those countries whose economies have traditionally been deeply intertwined with Russia. It's articles and interview with Thibaut Katri, the Chief Compliance Officer for ConnectPay UAB, a Lithuanian-based company that provides financial services for online businesses. In addition to the regular complicated part, the company made the decision that it would look at residency and not nationality to decide who to do business with. So that if you were a Russian national residing in Lithuania, the company would be open to doing business with you. So when you say resident as opposed to nationality, you change the dynamics, and that's a feature of U.S. export control law as well. Next up, from the Financial Times, an opinion about the precarious life in Brazil undermined by corruption. And it talks about the imperial city, or former imperial city, I should say, of Petrópolis, which sits above a little more than an hour, outside Rio, and green mountains which provide refuge from heat and hubbub. In the city, however, life is far from a fairy tale. Vast numbers of people live in cheaply constructed houses in favelas. And one such community was wiped out by a mudslide due to the corruption that had occurred in the city that allowed it to happen. So corruption indeed does kill. From the Wall Street Journal, also the Chinese company Tencent faces possible record fines for AML violations. The thing that's unique about this is it's under China's anti-money laundering law, not the United States. So China seems to be getting with the world's AML program, and it's certainly welcome. And our final story comes to us from Dick Casson on the FCPA blog, where he talks about the political risks that risk managers need to factor into their analysis, particularly around what's happened with many companies in Russia, where estimates of up to $200 billion in losses have been sustained due to companies having to pull out or lose business and not do business in Russia. And what Dick reminds us is that political risk, even if it remains constant, that it needs to be factored into your risk management analysis. Certainly the knowledge of Putin and nationalization was well known, but now we have this economic crisis. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.